several soldiers jump off of the fast-moving train, and they're moving along with the train as fast as the train is moving. And then at the same time, they're looking down on the ground and through the woods looking for people. And people in the woods have dug into the ground. They've put the branches on them, put the foliage on them to cover themselves in hopes that they won't find them. But these soldiers are not looking for them. You know, it's not about seeing them. It's about the frequency. It's not even about the heat that they have, right? The vision that they have, the glasses. It's not even about that. It's about their vibration, the frequencies that people put out, and that's how they will hunt them down. There's another one that I had another dream. Yeah, you can't run. You can't hide. You can't run. And I guess another thing that I need to mention is, with everything that I'll be talking about today, we need to keep in mind that from now on, we need to believe and step into the supernatural that much more. We need to believe that God is the one who can create the shield around us of his glory, his power, where we can be invisible to the enemy. They can't smell us. They can't go after it. We need to step into that. The time is coming. We need to teach that to our children and grandchildren. The supernatural will have to be part of our life if we are going to survive. All right. There was another one where another dream where it wasn't, they didn't even look, these cyborgs didn't even look like adults. They were actually like children and teenagers, and they were hunting the people down. And because you don't expect a child or a teenager to come after you, people were not afraid of them at first. But then they saw how these children were tearing the limbs apart. Once they get to the person, they're just tearing them apart into pieces. I don't know why they were doing it. It was during that, in that same dream, there were also tanks going through the cities. Like there would be malls around towns, shops, beautiful city, and there are tanks. Like everything was changing, reforming. And in the same dream, that's where, like on the sides, all these children and teenager soldiers were running after people, chasing them. And people were running into the woods. They were running up into the fields, into the mountains, away from them. But again, you cannot run away from them because they're programmed to seek your DNA. And I don't know if the things,
the jabby jab,
are going to be assisting these future super soldiers with that, where they're lining up the same nanos in there. You know, I kind of personally think that that is part of it. But I'll drop that. Then there was my daughter. I'm sorry.
You know what's interesting about? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. I can hear you.
Talking about this Zappity Doodah Day, I was reading this week that they are now injecting animals with mRNA, right? So basically so what they're doing, and this, I don't know if that has any correlation to what you're saying, but I think it would. It makes a lot of sense that it would, because what they're saying is a lot of the animals are being injected with mRNA, and then those who therefore then ingest the meat, eat the meat in any way, is getting that into the system. So that's a little bit freaky, actually, if you think about it like that, because if you're a meat eater, chances are then that you're going to get contaminated, right? If you're not a meat eater, I'm sure it'll possibly be done in other ways. You know, we know already just from past interviews and stuff with Jesse and some of that, well, mainly Jesse on this one. I haven't heard anyone else speak about this except Jesse, but literally that, you know, the kids that have been, I'm trying to find the right word to say that I don't know, you know, I don't want to say, well, basically their lives have been taken. Let's call it that. Yeah, that gets put in our food, you know. So there's a whole lot of other things, other avenues that we can actually get this as well, you know. No problem. No problem there. Yeah.
Yes, I will. I guess I'll go into the creatures then. Yes, I will go into that a little bit more. But on that same note, last year, more than that, God told me to just stop eating the meat because they will be doing that. And as you said, here it is where I'm seeing it. I'm like, okay. Oh, there was one crazy dream that I had a long time ago, which I will mention. So people are so addicted to the meat. I'm not judging anybody, okay? Please don't. We had our own animals here, sheep and goats that would slaughter and eat, love them, right? But then God said, don't do it. I'm like, I stop. But in this one dream, the things got so bad in this world, even the meat, you couldn't buy the meat, that there was a manufacturing company, and what I saw was pallets of dead bodies, frozen dead bodies piled up, and then they're brought into the company, and their workers who are doing the buttons, taking the clothes off and putting them through the grinder, these human bodies on the conveyor, and then they're packaging it into these little packets, just like you would see, ground beef in the supermarket. And that's what they were selling, human grind up meat. And I asked one of the gentlemen, like, how could you possibly do this mentally? And he said, I've got 5, 6 kids to feed, and I got to do what I got to do to provide. Now, I'm not going to eat the meat, the human meat, but I will do what I need to do. Yeah. Now, speaking of food, there's a verse that says, and if you drink the poisonous water, I will protect you. You won't be affected by it. Right? Once again, we need to step into that supernatural. If you're a believer and you understand his power that is with you, don't have that fear. Oh, and then another thing with food. This was a couple of years ago. God specifically said, when you pray, ask me to change the molecules around, rearrange the molecules in the food and make it medicine to your body.
Yes, absolutely.
People laugh at me, but that's my short prayer. Rearrange the molecules.
I agree. It's possible. You change the energy of the food. I've done it. I've seen how when with medication, I've seen how with medicine, they really, and I saw that especially now, not too long ago when my mom was so sick. I just knew I had to check her medication because I looked at everything I couldn't find, and I knew it was something supernatural happening with her. I just had to find out what. And then suddenly and she doesn't take a lot of medication. There's something for blood pressure and there's a little bit for that, whatever, she has a few things and vitamins and stuff like that as well. So I just said to her, right, and I just zoned in and I could see literally the energy coming from the medication. And it's like, honestly, the only way I can say it's like little demons, and that fights with each other. They attack each other. And it's like I could see literally that's how they got to my mom, was through her medication. And in that moment, I said, that goes, that goes, that goes, that stays, there you go. Nothing else. Within the next day, she was a different person. So I can see how they do it like that, right, with medication. So it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we know we are most vulnerable when it comes to food, right? Because we are so reliant on them to supply us with food. We go to the shopping center, we do whatever, we just buy pizzas and McDonald's. And I mean, McDonald's, I've heard 1,000 times at least, has human meat, I don't know. I've heard it. And many times I've been told that. So I don't eat McDonald's. I never have. I don't think I've ever in my life had a McDonald's burger, ever. I sometimes had their French fries, crisps. But Yeah, it's just like disgusting. But they really do, they are able to get us when it comes to food and the foods we eat, because we do not grow our own food. We do not, we've become completely reliant on them to supply us. So that's a very vulnerable spot for us. And that's what I've been saying with people, especially during these COVID times. Grow your own food, get self-sufficient. I mean, what do we know is in there? I don't know, but it's better than what you're buying from a Bill Gates or a Raymond Ackerman chain store. That's my point.
Yes, and I would like to add to it a little bit, because we live in the country. We've had our gardens. I have my garden, and I am expanding it big time this year for all those reasons. And there's the chemtrails, right? The chemtrails that are just poisoning our air so much, and it's on our food. And I've actually, a while ago, I would look under the microscope of all my vegetables to see what days are what, according to what I saw in the sky. But, and I thought about it, I asked my husband, well, can we do it enclosed this year for that reason? And then that's one thing. Another thing that I was worried about in the past, not the pesticides, but to revive your soil, the fertilizer, right? Like, what fertilizer do I put on there? And then after listening to Jessie's shows, when she was revealing how they incinerate the children and then they use that and they sell it to other places, and they add this organic matter, children's ashes, to the fertilizer, to your herbs that you sprinkle, organic herbs that you buy at the store. Like, it's organic, but it's been dedicated to all these demons, principalities. Like, what's worse now? Is it the chemicals that you're buying in the food with the food, or the organic things that have been sacrificed to the gods? And the bottom line is what God told me, and I'm actually making a sign for my garden that says, no weapon that was formed against me will prosper. And this is the promise that I'm planning, I do stand on. No matter what they're creating, no matter what they're spraying, adding to the water, I have to stand and believe and run with, no weapon formed against me will prosper, because I'm God's child. And that's that. Otherwise, like, you can go crazy in the head. Like, how do you survive? You have to believe these days in the supernatural. Yeah, I mean, God is going to give you wisdom what to do, what not to do.
But you know what I see about these times, Lira, as well. And I'm looking at Duke's natural flavors is code for human. Yes, I know that. That's what Jessie also told us ages ago. When they talk about natural and organic and in things like your oatmeal, stuff like that, that's where you're going to get that stuff. I mean, how absolutely hideous. But anyway, I didn't know what I was going to say now. Carry on. I forgot.
Oh, yes. Let's go back to the cyborgs, the super soldiers. So, as you know, my daughter has been used for various things. She's been used to see into the future, travel, and so on. But one of the things she was also, she's been created as what are they called? A clone. And that's what she basically tells me something, whether she had a dream about, whether something hurts in her body. And when I start praying over it, God reveals to me what happened to her. And then I'll relay it back to her, and she'll say, oh yeah, that totally resonates with me. That's exactly how I felt, or that's exactly what I've been seeing herself, right? So in this dream, this was the other week, she says that, and as you know, she's a nurse in the emergency room. So she sees a lot. But so they cloned her as a nurse also. And in this particular dream, it's a building out here in Northern Virginia without any windows. You go into this building, you walk into one room, you have to move the whole wall. It's a fake wall, right? And then there's another room, and within that room, there's a hidden door going up into the second floor. And when you crawl up into the space, you are in the room that is filled up to your waist with water. And in this room, there are beds floating on water with super soldiers, cyborgs in her case, laying on these beds. They're just floating and they're in stasis. So her job was to give them drugs that will keep them where they can't move. I can't think. Paralytical drugs.
Paralyzed.
Right. And then where the brain shuts down. So they're keeping them in the sleeping state, if you will. And there's about 100 of them floating on water. I know there's something about water too, but they are set aside there for a certain period of time. Like they will be let out. And then my daughter's handler, our handler, J.B. Neal, he was the general. He was overseeing this set of super soldiers. And then he had her administering the drugs to them until the time came in. And when she told me about it, I started praying, and sure enough, yeah, I'm like, I was seeing it also. And I asked the Lord, like, I can't do this. This is just too much for me. Like, if she passes, how am I going to react to seeing perhaps a clone that looks, acts, walks, talks, reacts, has the same emotion as my daughter, but she is not real? You know, let's say if she passed and I come across a clone, like, how do we react? What do we do with that? Because in my opinion, and some of the other survivors, clones are real. They are amongst us. I believe personally that at least a third of the people population are not real humans, fully humans. And you can do your own research, you can do your own movies, and all the survivors and super soldiers, you do the super soldier talk. Very interesting. They will all talk about the clones. And every one of us will mention movies, and we'll have certain details from those movies, like, yeah, it's like that, but not quite. You know, they make the movies according to our experiences. And like I say, any clone movie that you pick, you can rest assured that there are quite a bit of truth in those movies. So so what I end up doing with her, this clone, I asked the Lord to burn it out of this clone, burn out her essence with his powerful fire, wash it out with his living water out of that clone, take her essence to heaven, like cleanse it up there too, and then bring it back into her body, return it to her, or like have that cleansing process. I know I heard it from 2 other clones, including besides myself, that when they clone you, black goo is involved in it. They gotta use black goo. And I think they've inserted into me at the hospital with all the shots. And now that's how they're able to do it. Because when I was delivered from those 3 clones that I had, just black goo came out of me, just plop, and I was shocked. It was incredible. Not blood, just not my time of the month, but blood goo came out of me, and I froze. I did not know how to react. And like I said, I heard it from the others too. Something there.
So I mean, that black goo kind of has a life of its own, right? So it's like, yeah. So obviously, when you were cleansed and redeemed, if you will, I didn't even think there was a cleansed from it. Yeah. So it obviously came out of you. What was it like when it came out? Was it dead or alive?
Oh, I didn't even pay attention to that. It was just a puddle of goop. That's what it was. It was a puddle of black goop with a touch of red hue. Because I mean, you know, I'm still real human. I've got my red blood. Yeah, but no, it was like sticky. Sorry to be gross.
No, it's very, very interesting. I mean, it's good to. I mean, I want to hear these things definitely, because it's really fascinating that they can actually do what they do. Did you feel any different after it came out? Did you feel more relieved? Did you feel more? Was there any difference in how you felt or operated once you were released of that?
I felt the release when the night before, when they prayed over me, and there was a huge demon that was clawing me on the inside, and they could not really get it off of me, out of me, away from me, however you want to say it, until they took that cuff bracelet off of me, because like in the spiritual realm, they cuffed me to these clones. As soon as they were able to take it off, that thing left me, I felt release there. I felt freedom there. And but not the day before. The day before, I was grateful that I came out after I, got my brain together. Like, this is okay. I got the freedom yesterday. Sure, stuff is coming out of me now. That's great. But I did not feel that release as much as I did the night before. But it was thick.
It was really just the remnants. Yeah, it was the remnants. Right. Yeah. Wow. 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 Wow.
It was wild. Now, I felt the release that I felt, big, huge release that took me a day to get over was when they unplugged me from the super sleeper soldier thing. When I gave them the wrong coordinates for what the Russians were supposed to be bombing here in US, the different locations, because they didn't like it. They knew that I went rogue, and they unplugged me the next morning. So about 6 o'clock in the morning, I rolled over, and I thought I was going to puke all over my husband. Like, everything out of my ears, nose, mouth, every opening had this, it felt, okay? In the spirit, I saw black water, liquid coming out of every opening. And I was so sick to my stomach. It was just out. I could not go to work. I laid on the couch the entire day. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't move my body too much. That was the most dramatic experience.
How long ago was that?
That was last year, a year and a half ago. Because now it's April. Now it has been 2 years since I've been on this healing journey, cutting things off, seeing things being revealed, and then asking God to cut it off me. Yeah, that was bad. And then, well,
wow.
Let me see.
That's incredible. Wow, Lira, and your daughter, you say that they created a clone of her as well, and you prayed over that clone. What happened then? Is it still around? What happened to that clone? Do you know?
No, because from one of my clones' experiences, kind of experience it in some ways, they can repurpose them. They do repurpose them because it's expensive to make a clone. So if they can get somebody else's essence or that, code that they'll use with the different demonic powers, right now they can reuse that clone with somebody else's essence. I mean, they can put as many different characters, people in there as they want to. At the same time, they'll just push a button like, I need you now, in an hour, I need you to step in. So her essence is not in there anymore, but her clone that looks like her is around.
Is still running around.
Refocused.
Did she only have one? Did they only clone her once?
I don't know. I didn't ask. Okay. This was just, she's very busy right now, and she's got her 2 kids. So I'm only doing it as her mind allows her, right? Because it's a lot. It's every time you see something, it's like a can of worms, and you kind of have to pay attention, like what can crawl out of there, how much more have they attached to this clone and the jobs, because you can't grasp it. It's very, very hard for you to grasp that this evil has been done to you. They've stolen your essence and they're running with it and doing these nefarious things. It's a lot to grasp. So you kind of want to give it time. Sometimes it's weeks, sometimes it's months to work through this. And then like give it up to the Lord and then understand that, yeah, he has redeemed me, and start walking in this new mindset. It takes a while. It is a process. Sadly, yesterday I was talking to my son for quite a while, and he just started talking about his dreams out of the blue, and I was floored. His dreams, so-called dreams that he's dreaming, I'm like, you give me same details about the aliens, the planets, the future guns, the atmosphere, the attire that the soldiers are wearing. You sound just like the soldiers, the survivors on the Soldier Super Talk. You can YouTube it. It's called Super Soldier Talk. And like dream after dream, he's having these ridiculous, I want to say memories are coming back. So I'm going to have to work with him later. But I
Do we
mean,
have a link on that? Do we have a link on that, or is it just
no,
is
just
it a
type it in.
podcast called
You
Super
type
Soldier
in,
Talk
yep, one word.
on YouTube?
And Mhm. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's been on there for many years. I just came across him the last couple of weeks, and I'm sitting there like, I get nothing on them.
Wow.
They're the ones who are super soldiers who've been used, drugged, abused. Every clone avatar that you can imagine has been done to them. But everybody has the same thing, the same story. There's avatars involved. There's time lapse that you're missing. The abuse is there. You all have different missions. You usually work in teams. Usually, you always have the different aliens, and all of them have the same similar species of them. Like they're not whipping this out of their creativity, their imagination. They're not whipping it out of movies. If anything, movies got ideas from people like them. It is interesting, it is scary, it is sad, but it is the reality, the ugly reality of military that people don't want to acknowledge. The Bible says that they are stealing. Satan steals, right? Destroys. He steals our soul and then trades it. It's in Revelation. It's the Babylon system. They trade human soul. We have to understand that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
But
So
you know what
speaking
I
of,
was saying? Yeah, carry on.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, I always like to look at all of these things from every objective angle. And I always say, I see God in everything. I really do. A lot of people will see the devil in everything. I see God in everything. So when I look at this situation and just where we're at right now, as a species, humanity, and I mean, wherever we're looking, every country, I mean, is just under siege. This entire globe. I mean, now yesterday I was so mortified. The princes of Dubai, the king of Dubai, has bought up 2 hours away from me so much land, so much of our game farms, and he's now put a airstrip in there for him and his entourage. Now that for me immediately, firstly, they're highly involved with child trafficking, and secondly, they are getting away from America and Europe because it's well known that those areas are going to be nuked. South Africa has always been said to be the safe place, the breadbasket of the world. We've heard that for many, 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 many decades ago already when they were talking about this. That was even one of Nostradamus's predictions. And we know Nostradamus was part of this, but it makes sense, that he would say that. And it's true. The African continent is very, very, very rich. Very, very, very rich. And they've literally used us as their grocery store, but nonetheless, we are still a very wealthy continent. So they are coming in. This is what's happening now. They're coming here. They're setting themselves up here on our home turf to do whatever it is they're going to do. That to me is super disturbing because our government is so bloody corrupt. It's disgusting. I don't think there's no more government on this planet that is more corrupt than the African National Congress in South Africa. They will steal and leech and just disgusting. I mean, really disgusting. Anyway, but what I'm saying is, I really think we should really see this as such an opportunity to wake up. When I say wake up, I feel this is God shaking and rattling our cages and saying, humans, I'm giving you this really dark energy in the whatever Luciferian, in the shape of Lucifer and whoever the hell it is. The only way you're going to get through that is to wake up spiritually. Understand your own power. Understand that you're aligned with me. Understand that even if you have 1% light in your body right now and everything else is dark, you still have that 1% light. And through prayer and through meditation, you will align with God. and you will hear God's will, and you will hear God's voice, and you will know what to do, and you will know how to be safe. And the more we wake up, the less these negative entities or demons or whatever the hell it is that these things are. There are so many right now. I mean, I was seeing things today, huge big creatures coming out of the sea. And someone is saying, well, it was either like something that looks like a Loch Ness monster, and it's, you can see it's a video footage, you know, if they caught something in the sea. And there's just more and more, and not far away, these massive whales being washed out on the beaches, you know. So there's lots and lots of stuff that's just starting to look a little bit dodgy and a little bit fishy. So yes, whatever you've been saying in the past makes a lot of sense. You know, we've been talking about the giants, the Nephilim, these oversized spiders and 6-foot dragonflies, and God knows what all else that is being created by these creatures of the night. So yeah.
I sent Morné a link. He's not on there today, right? But
Yeah.
you guys can look it up on YouTube. You can type in 20 amazing animal, I think, creatures, robots, animal robots. It just came out. There's another video that just came out, 20 amazing robotic animals. And on there, you can see the dolphin, you can see the shark that they've created, like what Jesse was talking about, them augmenting them. Well, these are complete machines, right? And you can, when you're watching this, it's a very, very interesting show. You got to watch it. I don't know, 20-minute video. Think about all the nefarious things that they could be doing with them. Have that mindset. So when you're talking about the creatures coming out of the sea, yeah, they could even be machines, not even creatures.
Totally.
But they can have the demonic powers in them. So another.
Absolutely, wow! It's very, very, it's so bizarre actually, and you know, the more we talk about it, the more we see it, and it's just, yeah, crazy. Human beings, we need to wake up, people. Tell your family, tell your friends, this is happening. We have to wake up, otherwise we're going to be in shit. That's for sure.
Also, yep, line yourself up with the Holy Spirit, because He is the revelator. He is the Spirit of truth. Because also in the last days, it says that we are going to be deceived. Well, with these, I don't know if you thought about it, the chemtrails, the chemicals that they're putting into the air, they are breaking down the veil that is between us and the spiritual realm. So one thing, we will be seeing more in the spiritual, just easier. We'll be able to see more angels, everybody, not even seers, right? Angels and demons. And creatures, of course, keep that in mind, creatures. So that's one thing that will be happening. And we'll have to have the Spirit of truth to see what's real, what's not, because not only that, they're also creating a perfect environment for the holograms to come up. And, you know, we've all been to Disney World where they're showing the movie on the water, right? That's their screen. Well, here, the environment, the oxygen air will be perfect for them to do the holograms. And then these holograms, again, they can be deceiving us. They can be projecting all kinds of things, including Jesus coming down, right? We got to have the Spirit of truth to know what's real, what's not. Very important.
Seeing in the chat here, someone, Emmy, and hang on, Brianna, that's right. They asked me if birds were spies, and it makes sense that birds are spies. And Duke says, yeah, Carlos Castaneda talks about witches watching through the eyes of birds. Absolutely, makes perfect sense. You know, what better way? I mean, if they can utilize one creature, rest assured they can utilize every single one of them. And especially birds, especially the sea creatures. It's like what Jesse was saying, the sharks, the dolphins, these things with human body parts on that they've been testing on and torturing and creating, and dragons and all sorts of things that's living in these water cities. You know, underneath our, is it underneath or in the center? I don't know where underneath, in,
I'll tell
out,
you.
up.
Yeah, you made me think. So there's two things. We'll get back in the water. There was one avatar that went the ocean underneath the ocean. Okay, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So I'll, give me a second. Let me talk about the creatures, since we're talking about the creatures. When I was asking the Lord to, let's go and find the rest of my essence pieces, my soul pieces that have been taken in various places, because I wanted to be whole. Right? I want them all back. So as I was praying, waiting on the Lord, Jesus appeared next to me, and all of a sudden I see a den, and this den has 5 to 6 large likings. And a liking is between, it's like oversized wolf, but he can walk on his toes. Just every country has some sort of liking, but with the Russians, every fairy tale has a wolf, right? So this is just a humongous wolf. Werewolf, we'll go with that, a liking. As I was doing the prayer, God specifically told me, stop at the likings part, look them up, see the picture, and this is because what they've done, the Russians done with 5 to 6 of those soul parts of mine, they've created these likings. They are machines, essentially, right? And they would activate it with, whether it's my hair or the soul parts, and then they would use it nefariously, right? So I asked the Lord to return it, blah, blah, blah. But then he said, Jesus showed me hospitals around Russia. And in those hospitals, he showed me people sitting and giving their blood. And he said, see this blood? They're going to use this blood later on, and they're going to be injecting them into the likings that they've already created. A bunch of likings are werewolves, are underneath the earth, set apart for a certain time for them to come out and start hunting the people down according to their blood type, according to their DNA. And he gave me a verse, that Jesus specifically said that they're already made, that this will be happening. And to Russians, growing up with all these fairy tales where the wolf is eating the humans, it's not a far-fetched thing. It's like, oh, there it is. The fairy tale is real. But Jesus also gave me a verse to go with it, which is Revelation 6:8. And it says, I look up and behold a pale horse, and his name upon him was death. Death and hell followed him. And over a fourth part of the earth was taken out with a sword, hunger, death, and then with beasts of the earth. So these beasts, or everything that we're talking about, the machines, right? They can have the evil spirit in them, and they line them up with everybody has given blood. The baby, as soon as the baby is born, they take the baby's blood, right? So they have our blood in the banks all over. And they're pretty much touching every creation, every machine that they're making. They just inject it with our blood, dab it. It can be dry, it doesn't matter. The DNA is there. So like that's set apart. So imagine in this particular verse, it talks about a fourth. So if you subdivide your town, your country into fourths, a fourth of the people will be taken out with hunger, death, weapon, or creatures. A fourth, that's a lot. Now, when we're talking about the giants, he gave me a verse, and this is, hold on, from Joel 2:7. Well, those are those super soldiers. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Talking about the super soldiers, when we were talking about the super soldiers, he did give me a verse for that one too. Joel 2:7. It says that they could crawl up the walls in unison, and you cannot break their ranks. Like when they program the super soldiers, there's nothing they can do about it. They're going to keep on doing what they were programmed to do. Like again, Bible confirms it, right? Creatures, Bible confirms it. Poisonous water. He says, if we drink the poisonous waters, they're there. And then the giants, I think it's Revelation maybe 9, I want to say, with the giants. And in the dreams, one of the dreams was the giants were coming to, in Revelation it says 4 giants will be released, right, from underneath Euphrates. In Enoch, it talks about God telling Michael to go and chain up the giants and put them under the earth into hellish parts and into the valleys to chain them up. So, I mean, clearly the Bible and the book of Enoch acknowledges them. So in this dream, giants were chasing humans, and humans were hiding in high-rise buildings, and they were hiding, like going back into the closets where the giant could not take them out. So if you can imagine a dollhouse, right, and you have to use your little fingers to get to do things, the furniture and the doll, that's the size of us. And in Psalms, I think it talks about that they would eat them up like bread. The us human size were to them like bread. They didn't think twice about it. In another verse, it says, when the spies went out, the Israelites into Canaan lands, that when they came back to give their report, they said that the people were like grasshoppers to them. Like, and all this is coming back. And again, we will have to step into the supernatural, where God can protect us, create the supernatural shield, or make us, his glory coming out of us so much where they cannot pick up on our frequencies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we've got to raise our frequencies, because these are very lower level rung creatures. You know, it's like if I'm talking my language, it's the lower triad of the chakra system. So it's those parts of our fears, okay, the fears around our security, the world, our identity, etc., our emotions, and our personal power. You know, so when we take all of that and we invert it, the lack of security will, or the fear rather of not having, will cause huge greed. You know, that fear of not having, it's like when you think there's not enough abundance on this planet for everyone, you're going to go and try and grab what you can, because you want to get it as much as what you can. So that fear of not having creates a huge amount of greed. Okay. And when we start getting greedy like that and fearful like that, you know, what are the things? What is our currency? Our currency is sex, right? Money and fame. So those are all the lower three aspects of ourselves. So until we've learned as human beings how to reconnect to God, to align with God and God's light, and understand that emotions are not anything to be feared, because you see, when we look at emotions, it's the feeling, right? That's our fuel. So when you feel good, you're going to be attracting good or acting good, right? You're going to be in a harmonious, co-creative, generous mood, but coming from a really good place. And turn that around. You're going to be greedy. You're going to be spiteful. You're going to be very non-trustworthy, you know, all of these things. And that all relates, of course, to your personal power. How do you express yourself? You know, it's like very often dictators, like the dictators, the politicians, will have huge issues in those areas. So if you're looking at that and you understand that we're all powerful, we are all created in the image of our Creator, it doesn't mean you are God. It means that you have the same in you as God, and you have the same in you that Jesus had in him, right? So that's the thing that most people don't get. You know, Jesus came and showed us what is possible in human form. And when you follow his guidance, because I do believe Jesus was talking with a really amazing voice from God, okay? He was channeling God all the time through the Christ consciousness, or the Christos, right? Then, you know, and when we accept and integrate that into our own being, we can create our own miracles. We can heal our own bodies. We can see a demon and an angel. You do. And you know, I learned to do that a while ago. And God showed me, it's like when I was looking, and there'd be a very nice looking spirit, if you will, in my vicinity. And I'd look at it, but something in me would say, look a little bit, and there was nothing. If you just looked at it, I think the untrained eye, so to speak, would be able to have a lot of difficulty discerning. But God said to me, look again and look again. And you know what? Gold, if you look at the color gold, it's not shiny, actually. It's actually very molten. When you look at real gold, if you see in a bar of gold, it's not shiny, it's molten. It's heavy, not heavy, but it's rich. It's Yeah,
A
I can't explain it.
positive stick.
Yes. But the devil's bling is just a little bit too bright. And I just saw the too few bright sparkles coming out of this thing. I said, hey, Wena, you're wearing false. I said, you're wearing fake jewelry. Be gone with you. And it was amazing because as I said, be gone with you, you're wearing fake jewelry. It disappeared first into a black puff with a funny face, an angry face, and then disappeared. So the minute you can identify these things for what they are, you know, God's energy is not bright and shiny and blingy and putting it in your face and wearing a G-string. I don't know, you like, and boobs all over. No. That's not God's energy at work there. You might be God's creation, but it's a different energy that's working through subtle knowing.
Yep.
That's what you're looking for.
Oh, right. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I actually do have a story for that too, experience with the essence. But first I wanted to mention, when I do come across those beings and my heart immediately says something is wrong, I immediately ask them, what do you think of Jesus and his blood? They cannot handle the word Jesus. They cannot handle the word blood. And like you said, this beautiful little too perfect being all of a sudden will turn into a skeleton like rotten flesh. You know, it will just disappear. I got 4 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
the story, the other reclaiming my essence, soul parts back. Another time, again, waiting on the Lord, and all of a sudden, Jesus and I are hovering up high in the sky, and it's kind of over the Black Sea, USSR, Russia, Moldova, Ukraine. And we are seeing this beautiful Queen of Heaven dressed in diamonds, diamond-filled dress, the thing on her crown, the crown on her head, all diamonds. She's a beautiful diamond-like chariot with horses in front of her and some beautiful creatures behind her. And my jaw dropped. It was so breathtaking, so stunningly beautiful. And Jesus held up his hand, and 3 of the diamond pieces fell off her dress. I'm like, huh, those are my soul parts. That's pretty cool. And then I'm looking at this Queen of Heaven, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, if my soul parts are part of her dress, that means she's got a bunch of other soul parts from humans, you know, to complete this dress. And so this horses, the crown, everything about her, this glorious, beautiful skin that's on her, like, no, that's the glory that she has stolen from the humans.
From the kids, the adrenochrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and isn't that wonderful what you're saying there, that when you see this creature as gorgeous, she's obviously stolen the best bits of each soul that she's encountered, right? So that again just says to me, like what you did there, she had 3 of your soul parts, which you reclaimed. So if each and every one of us reclaim the bits of our spirit or the bits of our soul that has been shattered or stolen or whatever, and you can only do that through spirituality, deep, and then it will automatically come back to you. It's like you draw it back to you. Then these creatures discombobulate themselves. They get dissembled, right?
Yeah.
So we don't even have to do anything other than reclaim who we are in God's highest glory. Because when we do that, the other stuff automatically will just fall by the wayside. That's what I say. I say this all the time. You can't fight something outside of yourself and create this war and friction and try and kill and hurt. Because when you're trying to kill and hurt something, oh my goodness, you're really creating more of a negative energy. You're creating more negativity. You're creating more friction. Step back, align with God, pray, meditate, Be still, go within, stop the fight, breathe, think about what you're doing before you're reacting, because even an overreaction with your husband or your child is adding to that fragmentedness. So as we just reclaim more and more who we are, we stay in our truth, we link arms with each other, and we do this journey together, these dark energies will automatically disappear.
Yep. Because after looking at her and my 3 parts diamonds in his hand, I was like, wait a minute. You're Jesus. You've got all the power. Why don't you just take all of the soul parts off of her, like everything, and take it back to heaven or put it back into the bodies where they belong? And sure enough, he stretched out his hand a bit farther, and all the diamonds, just soul parts, other people's soul parts, went into his hand. And she turned into this decaying flesh. You could smell it, just rotting flesh, skeleton-like thing. So the horses that were pulling the chariot, they turned into salamanders, the slimy, slithering things. Very, very ugly, including the creatures behind her. Like, you could see their true ugly, ugly shape without our glory. And that was awesome.
Wow, absolutely.
Are we running out of time, or you want me to tell another story?
No, I mean, we're an hour, but I've no problem going over. We can absolutely go over. Yeah.
Well, no, I'll add that at the end. Let me talk about the avatar who did reconnaissance work. The ocean within the ocean. That's a lot to grasp. Some people do understand it and know it. You can Google it, that scientists have found that there's an ocean underneath our ocean. If you don't believe that, it is what it is.
Yeah, I do believe that. I think we're all realizing more and more. There's a lot more beneath the ocean. Probably a lot more than another ocean too.
Right. So in this case, it was one of my avatars, and it looked like me. It was on the smaller side. The uniform was black and it was skin tight. And they put me into somewhere. They got me into the ocean. And then the next thing I remember was I was at the beach, and this beach was set up it was laid back, tropical beach, but it was at the same time, it kind of looked like a bus stop. And there were people laying back, reading the newspaper, doing their own thing, waiting for the taxi to come by to take you underneath into the other ocean. So the submarine comes by, about 6 to 8 people that you can fit into it. And it takes us into that other ocean, right? So we go through the ocean to be on the beach of another ocean. And then we go into that other ocean, and I'm in a base, military base. But they don't know that I'm there. So whatever technology I have, and then some of the super soldiers will actually talk about this belt that you put on, and it just makes you disappear. So I don't know if I had that, but I do know that the cyborgs eventually picked up on that technology, and they did see me. They did come after me at the end. So as I get into this huge base, and it's modern looking, like slick, clean walls. Everything is on the white. It is white. So the first part that I saw to my right, there was a huge tank, kind of water tank, and greenish chemicals in there. And the being he was not human. He was more of an alien, what you would describe alien in a white thing. He had a board, and he was writing things down, and then some humans came up to him. They were talking about what was the chemicals that were in this bin, this tank. Horrific chemicals, very powerful. And then I walked past it, because my job is, just to tell them what I'm seeing. I know that they can see through my eyes and they can hear, but still I give them more details, like what's in every corner. And farther down, there was a deeper lab, and huge in the middle of it was a huge, probably 3-story tank, and there was some creature in there that big. It was scary. It was scary. And then on the sides of it, 2 walls, there were also smaller tanks with other creatures in it. And in the lab, this, if you want to call, I don't know what to call it, lab facility, There were some were humans in their white lab coats, and some were not so human, and more. So they were working together with the other beings. Okay, and then farther down to the left, the corridor to the left, on the left side of that corridor, and at the end was a nursery. There were cribs with babies, more cribs on the back, and then there were two nursery workers. There were little old ladies, but their eyeballs had zeros and ones going through them. Like they just looked like sweet little ladies, but they were not ladies, and they were taking care of these babies. And these babies, as you know from Jeff's stories, what they do with the kids, with the babies. So in this facility, they had the babies. And then across the hallway, there was another room. And when I peeked into that one, there was a humanoid in, again, the white lab coat, and a bunch of soldiers that they had their limbs blown off during the war, with various wars. And they were just laying there with the wounds. I don't know where they grabbed them from, which war, if they did it on purpose, whatever. But they were there, and this nurse humanoid, they put some ointment on the cut off limbs, and immediately, like, you could see the limb growing out very, very quickly. And it was another testing facility, and that was so amazing. And of course, they would, record everything. How long does it take? What person? What ointment? And so on. Medicine ointment, I don't know what to call it, something. And I'm like, okay, I got enough of that to tell them. And I started moving to the next place, and there was a long hallway in front of me, but that's where I got caught. That's where they were all dressed in white, these cyborgs. They look like soldiers, slightly bigger than humans. And they saw me, and they started running after me. That's when I had to turn around, and I found a duck, really small little duck, narrow place that I could crawl into and get out of there from that way. They couldn't fit into the duck, only I could. So that's how much I saw, just all the inferior stuff, the chemicals being cooked up there, the creatures, the babies for their future use, and then the cyborgs, the humanoids, the aliens, the wounded humans. Yeah. And it was all done under the ocean. So I did get back to my taxi, and then the same thing. You get into the taxi, you come up to the surface, sit at the beach, wait for the next taxi, and then you go up to the through the next ocean.
Wow.
It was interesting. Just confirming once again.
It's absolutely, you're absolutely confirming what we've been told. I mean, I've heard a lot of this stuff, and now obviously people like you, Jesse, other people I speak to off air, not quite ready to come on air yet with these stories. But there's a lot of that. And I'm seeing a lot of this going also. So just seeing what's happening in the comments, okay. Very, very interesting, because, there's a lot of people that also identifying with what you're saying. Wow. Well, that was fun. And as you can see, my lights are out. I have load shedding. So my cheeks go like that because the light is shining so bright on my face. Okay, wow. Well, Lira, I want to say thank you. Is there anything else before we sign off that you maybe want to share or just say before
there's too much. We'll save it for other times. I'm hoping we'll do angels next time for hope, but I do want to give people, if I don't ever come back, just some hope. If you don't even read the Bible, right, or believe in God, if you can just Google God's promises, because Bible is full of God's promises, and their verse is full of high frequencies, great energy, great joy. The strength of the Lord is our joy. So if you can just Google promises of God in the Bible, and then just whatever your soul resonates with whatever promises that gets you to that higher level, full of joy and peace, meditate on that, like dance to it, put a tune to it, whatever. And then next week, go after another verse that will build you up. But we have to step into that supernatural. Our faith must be growing for these future events that are coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I always say, spiritual intelligence, spiritual connection way supersedes AI. That's for sure. You know, we are so scared of these huge big creatures of the night that are popping out from manholes all over, and where they're coming from. And it was interesting. And I was just on one of JC shows when we spoke about these sea creatures as well. Because lately, I mean, here in South Africa, in December, 2 people were killed by sharks, like literally in the sea, like up to your thigh high. About a month ago, I was out on the Saturday afternoon. A guy caught a shark while I was there, and it was 2.1 meters long. I was like right there, and he was measuring it. So there's all these things now popping out also of the sea. I'm wondering, you know, they must be feeling this because, of course, you know, when they're doing these things to these creatures, these water creatures, with all the supersonic energy. I saw a thing the other day. I tell you something. This was but in my vision, very, very, very flippant. I'm not often scared of things, and I'll tell you what this thing looked like. It's like a massive octopus. No, it's not the kraken. Not the kraken. Not the kraken. And I've never seen something move so fast. And you know, the octopus is known as the most intelligent sea creature. You know, it's well known. So it's like what they've done is they've taken the octopus's natural intelligence, and it's like it's got this supersonic intelligence that I could literally see the rays coming out of it, like psh, psh, like all over and moving so fast. And you know, the octopus with its sticky tentacles. And I went, oh my gosh, this thing is a portal. And it's like a moving portal. It like steals from one and gives to the other all the time. So it'll take and then go to the different portals and deliver. So it's like cross-contaminating. And you know what, when I spoke to someone, I said, who would definitely know about that, I said, what the hell is this thing I'm seeing? And he said to me, Russians recently discovered something like that. And I went, wow, it's not the kraken. It's something very different. It's like this octopus, and it's super intelligent. When I observe these things, I don't take on a form. I become the air, okay? I become the air. And so it sensed me. It sensed me. It didn't know where I was. It was looking for me. It sensed me, like it smelt me. Mm-hmm. That's how astute it is. Very, very astute, these things. So very, very interesting. Very, very interesting.
They connect me to it. There was one time where I thought I cut myself from it. Well, let me go back. Like I said, Dan DeWall has these very specific prayers. He goes one thing after the next. And as he was praying, I saw this octopus, exactly what you described. And I felt the tentacles coming out of me. And I saw God's angels come in, and they lifted her out of me spiritually, right, with these huge nets. And her tentacles are coming out of the net. And she's looking at me, and she's going, I took your first 2 children, because I had 3 miscarriages. And she's like, I took them. They are mine. And I've already met them in heaven. I do know that they're in heaven. I know my children, 2 boys and then a girl that I have. And I've named them, you know, their personality. So I wasn't as upset because I've seen them. But she was very, like, looking me straight in the eye, and she says, I took them. So then I did some research, going to the mythology, and it kind of taps into the Medusas. Like, there's something between them too. But where she actually had the 2 children, twins, and they died. One of the gods, you know, destroyed them, ate them, whatever. So from that point on, she started taking children, infants, miscarriages away from women. But I thought I was cut off from her. And she kept on saying that she was being pulled out. I'm like, I'm going to be back. I'm like, no, I'm God's child. You're not going to be coming back to me. But as I was praying over somebody a year later, because I picked up the same spirit on her, and I thought I prayed it off, but then I didn't cleanse myself afterwards. So that thing jumped on me. By the time I came home, within an hour, half an hour, my whole back was locked in, and I could feel the tentacles moving under my skin like this. Like it was manifesting itself. And by then, and within half an hour, I realized what it was, that it can't do that, because the Bible actually talks about shake your feet to get the dust off of the people who are not welcoming you. Actually, that's a wrong example. They can jump back on you. Okay. It's very important to stay in that mindset that God has delivered you, He has redeemed you, and you are clean, and they have no authority to get back into you. You have to keep going with that mindset. So I prayed and I was fine. It was out of me again. But it was spiritually, it was messing with me. But since we're talking about the water creatures, I have to mention Lira. It was another one that they've created. Jesus sat with me and He showed it to me. What was happening, I saw beautiful things, just something very mesmerizing in the water. And I kept looking and looking at it because it was supposed to be part of me. I'm supposed to pay attention to it, but I couldn't understand what it was because it was so fascinating. And then all of a sudden I see my face and the huge teeth coming out of the water. They were like sharks and piranha teeth. And this man was drowning in the water, and her job was to come out, like calm him down, kind of, hey, you're okay, you're not drowning, and then kiss him. But at the same time, it's the teeth that are biting into him and pulling him down into the water. And her name was Lira. I'm like, Jesus, what is this supposed to be like? Why in the heck did they create this? What he said was, it's a thank you to the principalities, the evil powers that the Russians have tapped into, the gods, right, to use to attach them to us children for these nefarious jobs. As a thank you, they said, well, this particular avatar is just going to be getting more souls for you. Whoever is struggling in the water, whoever is lost in the water, you're going to make sure this avatar is going to kill them and you can have their soul. They're yours. Just as a thank you. I'm like, that is the craziest thing that I've heard. So as Jesus, He took her to heaven. I saw her in this marble white pond, just playing with children. Beautiful. Later on, actually, the story goes on. About a year later, I'm waiting on the Lord, like, wherever you want to take me, And Lira appears, but this time she's smaller. She's like a good, beautiful fish. But she appears with Holy Spirit, with Jesus. And then I know that God the Father is up there too, like everybody's in. And then one of my angels, his name is Artemidius. And we were supposed to go through the river, the Moscow River. It's right by Kremlin, goes through Moscow, right by Kremlin. And she was saying, as I mentioned before, I think in the first video or second video, Russians keep people's souls that they've stolen in cages underwater. I saw one of the basins in the Black Sea that's just lined up with cages with souls, human souls. And then this one was in the river, Moscow River. I know I'm stretching people's imaginations. Just stay with me here. So
yeah.
We are, because it's just like that dress, the diamonds on the Queen of Heaven dress, right? Where she stole our soul, our glory, God's glory that's in us, and she's using it as a covering. Here they sold the souls, and they're keeping them in these cages. And there was one survivor that I came across on Super Soldier Talk. He said that they actually have technology now that they can capture a person's soul, pull it out of them and keep it and use it somewhere else. It's technology now, right? So it's not just me making it up. So we're going to the river and we're walking at the bed of the river. It's all black, and she's guiding us because she knows that she's like a water creature. So she knows about the water, and she's with Jesus and the Holy Spirit by my side. And God the Father was like a GPS. He was guiding us through the river. And the only thing that we were saying, Lira was saying, is Jesus loves you. Jesus loves you, to every soul in there. Jesus loves you. Jesus loves you. And as we're going through there, Jesus is collecting all of those souls out of there. And as we were walking to the left of me, we came across a Nephilim. This was hilarious. He's sitting like this, pouting. I'm like, Jesus, what's up with this? It's so funny. Nephilims, they've got their nefarious powers, agendas, but this one is locked away in the river. And he's pouting because the people above the earth, in the city, they don't want to take his advice anymore. They've turned to other powers and not him. So he's there just pouting. Well, that is hilarious. So anyhow, we kept on going through the river, and God the Father and Jesus said that we cannot get out of the river, come out of the river yet. We have to go outside the city. So the spirits that are over the city, they don't see us taking out, freeing all of those souls that they have captured. So we have to go out of the city, and that's when Jesus took all of the souls up to heaven. It was very interesting.
Wow. Very, very interesting.
I have several of those where we went back and we redeemed more souls that have been stolen. In the same, whether it was the same mission or I was in the same boat as they. When Jesus saved me and he showed me the souls, the essence, we went and we got together. We gathered, we saved the rest of the souls. Now, when that happens, when part of you is freed, whoever freed it, right? There's a part of you will get some clarity. You will get some clarity in your mind. You will get more peace in your heart, in your body, because a portion of you has been freed. So you're doing a good thing for everybody. When you're teaming up with the Lord and you're freeing, when you know that there have been souls that have been captured and you're freeing them, you're doing a good thing for other people. That's what he showed me.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Wow.
All right. We went overboard.
Well,
Sorry.
on that note, I think we'll call it a day for today, and we will have Lira back once a month from now. So last Friday, this is the last Friday, right? The last Friday of every month, but we'll keep you guys updated. So Lira will be back with some more very, very interesting stories. Fascinating stuff, guys. But at the end of the day, I really think we've just got to keep ourselves aligned, pray, meditate, trust, stay in your faith, and you won't go wrong. That's for sure. No problem with that. Wow. Thank you, Lira, very, very much. And I want to just say thanks to all you guys that have contributed in the chat tonight. Very interesting. Duke was talking about his octopus, or someone who knows he had an octopus stealing fish from the other tank, slithering across the floor, stealing the fish and coming back. They do that. Wasn't it in the World Cup soccer? There was an octopus a couple of years back. There was an octopus actually predicting scores. This octopus was predicting scores and they were betting and they were winning all the time, which was incredible. Anyway, guys, Lira, anything else from you?
No, but there is an octopus. They've created that video that we talked about the 20 modern water creatures, or the robots that they've created. They will have an octopus, and it's very interesting, the capabilities that it has. That's without even being spiritual.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty crazy.
Very, very interesting.
Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all our viewers. Thank you, Lira. Hey, I've got to put us off here today. I've got to see how to do this. Wait, guys. There's no one in the back room. Just wait.
All right, I'm off. Be blessed, all of you.
We're not going to go back in. Okay. Cheers, guys. Bye, everybody.